Kirby and the Forgotten Land is about a week away, and I am insanely excited to get my hands on this game. After the last Nintendo Direct, I told myself that I didn't want any more info, and I wanted to sort of go in blind. Then they released the demo. I of course ended up playing it despite what I told myself, and from what I played, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The controls were tight, and despite being in 3D, it still played like how Kirby should play. I know it sounds weird considering that Kirby is a 2D game, but everything just felt like it translated to 3D so perfectly. If this gameplay is the direction for Kirby going forward, then I am all for it. So anyway, I took my time with the demo, exploring every nook and cranny, and it got me really thinking about what this game is going to be like. Not just in terms of gameplay, but the overall experience. The thing that started getting my gears turning was seeing King Dedede in his Crystal Shards design at the trailer that was at the end of the demo. I had already started thinking that this game was going to call back to Kirby 64 due to the symbolic nature of Kirby 64 being the first graphical 3D Kirby game, while this one is the first true 3D Kirby game, as well as some of the expanded and evolved copy abilities. But after seeing Dedede, I really had to ask myself, is this game going to be somewhat of a direct sequel to Crystal Shards? I think so. So let's break down some of the evidence, starting with what we actually know. We have seen the evolved version of Needle, which seems to be an obvious design callback to the double Needle ability in 64. We have also seen the aforementioned new design for Dedede, which looks shockingly similar to his Crystal Shards look. Now comes the parts from the demo which require a little bit more reaching. The first thing to notice comes right at the beginning of the demo in its cutscene. Kirby and the Waddle Dees end up getting sucked up through a star-shaped portal. Now, we have seen star-shaped portals in the past for Kirby besides 64, like in Return to Dreamland, but we have to remember what they were used for in 64 specifically. They brought Kirby and his friends to far-off planets, distant worlds, and that's exactly what the Forgotten Land seems to be at first glance. But the next thing that I noticed was in the sort of achievement system the demo had for levels. One of the optional objectives was to make tulips throughout the level bloom. This seemed to be an intentional callback to Dreamland 3. Now wait, we have a callback to Kirby's Dreamland 3 potentially, as well as 64. Could this game potentially be connected to the Dark Matter trilogy as a whole? I think so, and if it is, that opens up a large amount of implications for the game. But before we move on to talking about the implications of Dark Matter, there is a final reaching theory that I have to mention as well. Some eagle-eyed players noticed that there are signs and posters around the demo that seem to be hand-painted. Who do we know from the Dark Matter trilogy that is an artist? That's right, the fan favorite Adeline. It would be really cool if Adeline comes back for the game, because if we have her, Kirby, Dedede, and Waddle Dee in the same game, this game would really feel like the gang is back together for a proper celebration of Crystal Shards and the Dark Matter trilogy. But that's just a personal wish of mine. Okay, so back to what I was saying about Dark Matter. I definitely think that there is an incredibly strong possibility for Dark Matter as well as potentially Zero to return. Now, I say return, but it doesn't really feel like Dark Matter ever truly went away from the series. It has always been present in at least some form past the original trilogy. However, Star Allies seem to take it a step further to the point where I would almost consider that game another entry in the Dark Matter saga. The final boss of Void is a blatant callback to Zero and Dark Matter. Its design is incredibly reminiscent of Zero, and we even see the original Hyperzone 2 background behind its title card in the final fight. Even though Kirby did seemingly rid the universe of this threat, the fact that the Jambastion cult was trying to resurrect what could be assumed to be a being of Dark Matter to begin with, it really feels like some serious foreshadowing for the future of the Kirby series, and I would not be surprised if Forgotten Land continues this continuity. People who aren't familiar with Kirby's extensive lore may be asking themselves, what continuity is there? And while yes, the continuity under early Kirby games was mostly limited to boss callbacks, but once the current series director Shinya Kumazaki took over the games, that's when lore and continuity became a very integral part of Kirby as a whole. The man loves its hidden lore and continuity, and Star Allies was essentially just fan service the game. So to think that he would want to make a spiritual successor to the Dark Matter Kirby games is incredibly plausible, and I am honestly convinced at this point that it will happen in some form. Once again, the biggest convincing factor though, for me, lies in the fact that in the demo trailer, Dedede seemed to be possessed yet again. Dark matter and corrupt DDD always seem to go hand in hand, and I do not think that this game will be the exception. If all of this stuff actually does come to pass once Forgotten Land comes out, I think it's safe to say that this is going to be Kirby's grandest adventure yet, and as someone who grew up with Crystal Shards, I am stoked to see a game that could potentially give the entry the fan service it deserves, especially considering that Superstars seem to be the focus for series callbacks with recent entries. I am so excited for this game. It really feels like Nintendo is giving Kirby fans the game we deserve after all these years, and next week, it will finally be time to experience what they have in store for us. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and leave your own theories and ideas for Kirby and the Forgotten Land down in the comments. I would love to see what you all come up with, and I will see you in the next video. Later.